presidents of various chapters, brothers and sisters in the Dharma. A warm welcome to our Dharma talk today. We are grateful to have Venerable Miao Guang with us today at PJFGS 3 Center. She has traveled all the way from Taiwan to KL and be with us here tonight. I'm sure all of you are excited to listen to her talk. And her talk today is remembering Venerable Master Hsing Yun's teachings through his speech and self-examples. But before that, please allow me to briefly introduce Venerable Miao Guang. She is Deputy Chancellor for International Affairs, FGS, Institute of Humanistic Buddhism, and the Director, Foguang Dictionary of Buddhism Translation Project. She is also the personal interpreter and translator to Venerable Master Hsing Yun, the founder of Foguang San Buddhist Order. Without further ado, let us welcome Venerable Miao Guang with a big hand.
Thank you very much. Dear Venerable Hsing, Venerable Yoden, all our elder advisors and executives of Buddhist Light International Association, good evening, Jixiang to you all. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. I understand that at this moment there is another Dharma talk going on in Sentu, which is in Mandarin Chinese by Venerable Huiping, a very exciting Dharma talk. So somehow I was hoping that most of you would be there to listen to him. But I thank you for being here. It's a truly great honor, because this is my first time back to KL since 2019, since the beginning of COVID, when we were separated for more than 3 years. And this is my first time here since our founder, our dearest Venerable Master, passed away in February. And so it has been a very difficult time for all of us. We've been learning to cope with the loss of a great teacher, the light of our Dharma life, the future of Foguang Shan as well as Bliya. But the days must go on. We learn to find our ways to strive ahead in his spirit. So I thank you for the opportunity tonight for me to be here to talk about the Venerable Master. It is my hope that tonight this interchange or this exchange will only be reserved for you here, only for those who share an affinity with the Venerable Master, only for those who understand why the loss of a spiritual teacher can also cause so much grief and pain, even in spiritual practitioners. I trust that you will understand and share in the affinity. So as we do all of this, it is my hope to share my memories in remembrance of what he had taught me and the changes that he had brought to my life. Otherwise, it's very difficult to talk about him within such a short time, because it's only been 124 days since his passing away. And when people invited me to give a talk on him, especially right after the 5th of February, I wondered if I could say yes. I'm not sure if I could gather the courage to do so. But as I struggled and hesitated, his voice came into my mind and said, "Why hesitate? Nothing should stop. Nothing should be interrupted just because my physical body has left this world. You go and do what you need to do." Right? And you share with these memories and my teachings with those who would appreciate it. So I gathered the courage to be here tonight. And if, just in case I get too emotional, I ask for your understanding, and I would like to give you my apologies for not being able to hold my emotions together, because it is very hard to talk about someone so dear. But I will do my best. So as we sit here to remember our teacher all together, okay, tonight I would like to come from a couple of viewpoints as to, now that we are without the personal guidance and only the spiritual guidance of our teacher, right? How do I look at my master, my spiritual teacher? Okay, so today I have 6 points to share with you as to who he is to me now. Okay, what is my teacher like? Okay, so first of all, I think about all the things he were and all the things he isn't. The misunderstandings, right? The stubbornness, maybe certain attachments to what a teacher would be like. It's something that I'm learning to let go. So first of all, I would like to share with everyone, in this year I begin to look at my teacher as someone who does not lead me ahead. He does not walk in front of me, as we usually understand that a master walks in the front and a disciple follows. But he's not like that. Okay. He's a teacher who leads not in the front, but a companion, a spiritual companion who stands by my side, which makes him even more friendlier. And I realized this in 2005, when he had just begun his endeavors in China. There was a group of Buddhists from Lianyungang who gave him a call and said to Venerable Master, "Hey, Master, we would like you to be here to teach the Dharma. Hey, we promise that once you come here, we will have a group of 10,000 people who will be taking refuge under you." Okay. 10,000 is a tremendous number, isn't it? And we would have thought that this would be a never-to-miss opportunity for any Buddhist master. But as soon as he received this news, he said no. To our surprise, he said, "I'm not going. There's no way I'm going to do something like this," which all caught us by surprise. And so he said, "You don't understand, do you? Looks like you don't understand the meaning of refuge taking. Okay. To you, you think you go there, you take them to take the pledges. Once they leave, they regard you as their master. But that's not how it works. For me, if I ever decide to be the witness of anyone's triple gem refuge taking ceremony, I would have the determination to become reborn again and again in suffering and in struggles until both of us have attained liberation. To me, that's what refuge taking means. So that's why I'm not going to mainland China for this ceremony, because I have no temples there. None of my disciples are dispatched in that city to continue to propagate the Dharma. Imagine if I do that. It would be like you walking past a pond and somebody is drowning. So you reach that person, pull up the person's head and said, "Oh, are you okay? Yeah, I hope you're okay." And then you drop your hand, the person falls back into the water, and then you keep going. He says, "I don't do anything like this kind. I'm not that irresponsible." Okay. So from that moment, he started to teach me what it means to be a Dharma propagator, to walk beside all of you, to stand by your side in suffering and in struggles, until the moment liberation becomes truly attainable to the both of us. So that takes a lot of courage and determination to ever do that, isn't it? But that's where he is for us, to take us in as his monastic disciples and lay disciples, and says, "Look, from this moment on, we are one in the cycle of rebirth, nowhere else." Okay. Therefore, he walks beside us. Okay. And he has shown this in many moments in life. Some stories we may have never shared about him. And in cases, he continues to fulfill this promise in the Sangha community at Foguangshan in our everyday life. Okay. For example, in one of the years when he was editing and compiling the book called Cloud and Water, a 50-year anniversary photobiography of his Dharma propagation work, 云水三千. He looked through all of these photos and he said, I think there's a photo missing. He wanted a photo within this album that shows that he's always a part of the community. 我在众中. So how do we be a part of the community in a Sangha? In the dining hall. The most important test for whether you are a part of the Sangha is whether you can eat, chant, and maybe sleep in the same space and time with the rest of the Sangha. He had been doing that ever since he was young. But after he retired as the head monk of Foguangshan, his long-term illness of diabetes required him to eat a rather different diet than the rest of the community. So he said, that's the only thing that's stopping me from eating with the rest of the Sangha. I have no choice. But today, I'm feeling okay. So he turned to his attendant and said, take out my 7-stripe robe, 我的旗衣. I would like to go through a formal meal, 过堂, with the rest of the community. So this is what we saw on that day. Back then, the abbot was Most Venerable Hsing. So on his usual daily stride into the dining hall for lunch, he was very surprised to see an elder who sits at the first seat of the western side, which is the seat for the senior elder. It was our Venerable Master. He joined everyone in chanting, and he ate a meal with everyone. And at the end of the chanting, usually Most Venerable Hsing would take a bow and walk out of the dining hall in lead of the community. But on that day, this is what happened. He went down to Venerable Master and said hi. Yeah. And Venerable Master says, Dear Most Venerable Abbot, thank you. Yeah. And within this simple and very humble interaction between a master who respects the system, who has already handed the baton over to Most Venerable Hsing, who will be the head of the community, right? He showed every respect to the leader. He says, because right now, you are the one who's leading Foguangshan forward. A system, a chairperson of the Foguangshan Board of Directors. And so this is how he spends time, by sitting and being right beside us. A very simple action. And another thing we would like to share is, not only is he always in person with the rest of the community, he's always there in heart. In 2018, I believe, when we had the opportunity to go to Shah Alam again to hold the 80,000 people refuge-taking ceremony, we were very, very fortunate to be there with him. It was an interesting day if we were there, because the event was supposed to start at 7:30, if I remember correctly. But on that day, traffic, work, right, your regular life commitments stopped many of you from being there on time. So I distinctly remember on that day, when it was almost 7:15, only a third of the seats were filled. Okay, so we turned to the head abbess, Most Venerable Juechen, and said, okay, we better do something about this. And so in a split second, when we turned around, Venerable Juechen disappeared. Okay. She didn't run away, okay? She turned and ran right into the parking lot, and to assist in the direction of traffic, to speed up everyone's process into entering the arena. Okay. To me, it was a really moving action, because she had jumped right into the problem itself and tried to solve it as a part of the community. Where does the spirit come from? It came from our teacher. Because on that day, when we finally started the ceremony, fortunately, 10 minutes into the ceremony, most of the seats were filled. And so the refuge taking, the precept conferment, and the chanting began, until all the way it was finished. And we headed out with the Venerable Master after his round around the arena on the buggy. Okay. When we finally got into the car to accompany him back to Dongtan Temple, he said, "Oh, I was so nervous today." Yeah. And we were like, "How can you be nervous? Right? You've been doing this your whole life. Were you nervous about presiding over a ceremony?" Right? He said, "No, I was not nervous about that. I was really worried about everyone who came." And so we asked, "What are you worried about?" Everything went smoothly. They came on time. Everybody arrived peacefully. And he turned to me and said, "You don't understand. I could sense a bit of drizzle in the weather today. So I was extremely worried that, what if it rained? Where will everyone go?" 好，如果下雨了，我怎么办? That was the thing he was worried about, the well-being and safety of the entire crowd. And that's where his heart was, not on stage, but beside everyone. So that is why I say he's not a master who leads ahead, but a spiritual companion who stands by our side, who cares for us, and who always has the top consideration. I have another story to share about that day. That was a pretty horrifying experience for myself, because we know that it was the year when he fell in Dongtan Temple. And so that was just about 2 days before the Shah Alam event. We were staying in the temple in the founder's headquarters. By then, he had lost most of his strength in his feet. So in order to get up, he would require at least 2 to 3 persons' assistance to lift him up. On top of that, he had lost 99% of his vision. So he wasn't able to see. And on that day, after dinner, as we were all getting ready for our next appointment, all of a sudden, one of the attendants came rushing out into the dining hall and said to us, "Quick, Master had fell in the toilet." And as we rushed in, what we saw was when he was getting up, standing up, usually if your feet are weak and your visions are almost gone, what you would do is you would depend on your hand to feel for any support in front of you. But on that day, what was in front of him was a tripod made of 3 steel bars with a basin in between. As he wasn't able to see, he thought it was something steady for him to hold on to when he tried to get up. But unfortunately, the tripod was loose, so it wasn't able to hold his weight, and he fell forward. As he fell forward, one of the steel bars went through his right eye socket and caused a 3-centimeter scar, a cut. So blood was running down, and he has smashed his face onto the floor very, very strongly. That was what we walked into. And so we started to panic. By panic, nobody screamed, but we were just really nervous about what to do. And as he sensed our nervousness, he said to us, "Look, the first thing you need to do now is to help me get up, sit me down, and help me check to see where I'm hurt." He was the calmest among all of us, because we could not bear to see him in such great injury. And so as we did all of this, when he sat down, I looked very closely. Near where the steel bar cut through his eye socket, it was only about 0.2 centimeters away from his eyeball. Had it gone the other direction, the outcome would be unimaginable. But he was calm. He sat in his seat, and then we immediately started to think about what strategy we can use to assist him, because we understood that after the very strong smash, he's going to get a big bruise on his face. And secondly, this cut could cause a scar. And so very quickly, the Venerables in Dongtan Temple arranged for a surgeon to come in to help him suture the wound. As he was sitting, you might be aware of a lady who follows him everywhere for over 60 years, Xiao Shigu, right, who had vowed to always be there to cook for him because of his special diet. And upon seeing this very heavy injury, Xiao Shigu started to get very upset. And usually when we get upset, we cry, but she didn't do that. when she gets upset, she cooks. Okay? She cooks and to give you the food so she actually feels better. Okay? But you would imagine it was right after dinner. Venerable Master had just fallen. As we were waiting for the surgeon to arrive, we were all sitting anxiously near the Venerable Master, right, with a temporarily bandaged side of his face. And then Xiao Shigu went out, feeling very upset, came back with the bowl of noodles and said, "Master, eat this, you'll feel better." Okay? And we were all thinking, how can he eat the noodles? First of all, he's not hungry. Second of all, he's probably in pain. Okay? But he understood. Immediately upon the request, he reaches out his hand, takes over the bowl, and started eating as if nothing had happened. Okay? That was so sweet. Okay? He was eating to make Shigu feel okay. So that was his way of comforting people. Okay? And then when the surgeon finally arrived, he looked at the Venerable Master and said, "Maybe you need to lie down in bed." Okay, so we were all in his quarters. As he lied down to receive the treatment, he started to ask the surgeon a couple of questions with the purpose of sharing the Dharma. Okay, it wasn't questions about, is this going to hurt? Right? Is it going to get swollen? How long would the bruise stay? Right? The questions were nothing of this kind. His question was, you're a surgeon, aren't you? Right? You help people look beautiful. Yeah. So I would like to ask you, what makes a person beautiful? Yeah. So it was an interaction, wasn't it? Yeah. And the surgeon, of course, understood. So they had a very nice conversation about what people do to beautify the world. And at the end of the day, he says, "Thank you for doing all of this. You're going to help me hide my wound." And I would say the most beautiful person is actually you, because you have a very beautiful heart. That's the most important thing. Okay. So in the short moments of his fall, right, the inspection of his wounds, waiting for the doctor to come, he did a couple of things to make everyone feel better. Right? Telling us what to do to help him, eating the bowl of noodles, and teaching the Dharma. And in all of this, you will see a true spiritual practitioner is one who has transcended the boundaries of his physicality. The pains of his body didn't matter anymore. What matters is that what is left of him, what remains in him, he will still use them to teach and share the Dharma. Because by Dharma, it means a process of transformation. Once we hear the Dharma, it's like walking through a door, isn't it? Once we walk to the door, we transform. We transform from being outside to inside. Okay? If you pass the gate of a country's border, once you walk through that door, you transform from being in Malaysia to being in Singapore. So if we pass through the door of the Dharma provided by him, we transform. We transform from hearts and minds filled with sorrow and affliction into hearts and minds that are wise, insightful, and tranquil. And that's what he wanted to offer us by walking us through the door. Okay. So as he did that, on the next day, we managed to bring him on stage by requesting for him to wear a pair of sunglasses to cover the swollen part of his face. He had never done that, despite how strong the sun may have been in the past. Okay. There were days when we were in tropical countries in Taiwan, when the suns were so strong, they would actually cause the micro vessels of his eyeballs to burst. Okay. Even when that happened, he refused to wear sunglasses because to him, that's not part of a monastic's demeanor. But for Shah Alam, he did it. Okay. Why did he do that? He didn't want you guys to worry. If you remember the day he showed up in front of everyone after he got hurt, the first thing he said was, "I'm truly sorry. I'm truly sorry to have made you worry because I was not careful with myself, that I hurt myself." That's how he comforted everyone who were worried about him. Okay. So my master is a true spiritual companion who begins by interacting us as if we are his equals. Okay. True compassion is only shown when we're able to be kind to another person by treating him or her as our equal. And he did all of it. Okay, so for this, the first point I would like to share with you tonight is that he's more than just a master who leads, but also a spiritual companion who leads ahead. Okay. And secondly, what is my master like? What does he give me? Okay. I would like to share with you that when he was with us, he did not just give us Dharma. What he was giving us was his heart and mind. He was giving us the gift of his life through everything he could offer us. Okay. For my example, as his personal interpreter, I usually get asked the question, how do you prepare for what he's going to say? Does he share with you his notes? Okay. Does he tell you his thoughts? And I would tell you, only on the days I'm lucky. Only on the days when he had time. Okay? But not on the days when he felt like improvising. Not on the days when he had forgotten my presence on stage. Okay? I've been through all of that. Okay? So how do I prepare for these rainy days? Okay? He said, he actually said to me in my early days as his interpreter, he says, you have to know me. Get to know me inside out. Get to know every part of my life. And I wondered how I could do that. Okay, so I gave him a look with that question. And even without saying the question, he said, he pointed to the entire wall of his writings and he said, all of these writings are yours. Treat them as if they're your own. Read them, take them, and teach them. Okay. This is how you get to know me inside out. This is how you share my teachings even without my presence. And so as he took care of me, what I understood was that he was offering his entire life of works. Not just guidance, but he said, everything I have ever accomplished, if you want it, you take it. So I enjoy the reading of all his works because this is how, when I'm not on stage with him, I get to interact through his writings about his everyday work. So as he offers me Dharma, in his later days when his body became more and more fragile and inconvenient, he was still offering his body as a gift to the rest of us. Okay. You might be aware of the story of King Sibi. King Sibi, who comes across a pigeon who was chased by an eagle. Right. And he was the previous life of Shakyamuni Buddha. So as the eagle chases after the pigeon who hides underneath King Sibi's legs, right, out of compassion, King Sibi offered the pigeon shelter. But the eagle was not happy. Right? The eagle says, look, if you're compassionate, you shouldn't just be compassionate to the eagle. Shouldn't you also be compassionate to me? I am alive too. I've got to eat. Okay. And so, out of negotiation, the king said, okay, however much this pigeon weighs, I'm going to cut off my flesh and give you an equal sum of this flesh just to feed you. And of course, the eagle was a Devi king who wanted to test the determination of this king. So no matter how much flesh the king cut off his leg, it could not outweigh the weight of the pigeon. So at the end of the day, King Sibi threw his entire body onto the scale and said, take it. Right, take it. If this is what needs to keep you alive, I'm ready to offer it. So in this story, what we saw was more than just the gift of a body. It was the gift of life, to save another life. The same with the Venerable Master. How did he give his own life to share with all of us? For one thing, no matter how ill and fragile his body was, he never stopped working. He never rested. Okay. It was around 2016 or a bit earlier, when he had gotten into the habit of writing his one-stroke calligraphy. As I might have shared with you, this is how he writes every day. Without being able to see, he has to complete everything in one stroke. Okay, so he writes 100 pieces at 7 o'clock in the morning, and at 10, if he has time, he writes another 100 pieces. After lunch at 1 o'clock, he writes another 100. And at 4 o'clock, another 100. 7 p.m., another 100. And if he's feeling up to it, at 11 p.m., sometimes 1 a.m., he does another 100. So it's at least 300 to 600 pieces per day. In rain or shine, when he's busy or when he's not. But then there came a day when he received a heavy infection, a viral infection that caused a 40-degree fever in his body. And so his medical attendants had no choice but to bring him to the hospital. Okay. After the treatment, although the fever came down, the doctor decided that he should stay in hospital to be monitored, just in case any complication should happen. Okay. But Venerable Master insisted on going home. So after a few rounds of negotiation, he realized that there's no way of winning over his medical attendants and the doctor. So he said, look, how about this? You give me 2 hours off hospital time. Allow me to go home because I haven't finished my one-stroke calligraphy homework today. 我还没做完我的功课. And I promise you, after 2 hours, I will come back. Okay? And then the doctor wouldn't give up. He said, no, look, your body is so important. Why can't you just give yourself half a day to rest so you can do more things? And then this is the time when he toughened up. He said, look, doctor, your job is to save lives. And my job is to save hearts. So please let me go home. Okay. And so, having no choice, the doctor signed a permission note for him to go home for 2 hours. Okay. So although he was still suffering from a fever and he had a drip connected to his body, as soon as he got back to his founder's headquarters, he started to write again. Okay. And that made us very worried. Okay. So our trick was to actually ask the head abbot, the lead of our Fo Guangshan order, to come and once again request for him to take a rest. So on that day, it was actually Most Venerable Hsing who came, sat down next to him, and after a few pieces he had finished, he turned to Most Venerable Hsing and said, well, do you have any business to tend to with me? What business have you here? Okay. And so the Most Venerable Hsing said, no, I have no business. Right. I just heard that you're suffering, you're sick, so I've come to check on you. Okay. And as he heard this, he said, no, I'm not sick. I'm just feeling a bit inconvenienced. I'm only having a fever and a diarrhea. I'm not sick. And if you have nothing else to say, go back to getting busy, because I'm busy too. Okay? So he went back to writing. And so we had no choice but to assist him, right? Pulling the papers, right? Preparing the ink. And our only hope was that at the end of the 100th piece, he would stop. Okay, so we started counting. 96, 97, yes. 98, 99, okay, time to finish. 100, 101, 102, 103. He wouldn't finish. So we said, Master, what happened to your 100-piece promise? And he pointed at his ink and said, look, there are still a few drops left. Right? Even ink has life. I cannot waste life. Right? So he continued to write and write and write until Xiao Sigu, once again, couldn't hold it anymore. Okay? So she turned to Venerable Master and said this, Venerable Master, let go. Let go. 师父啊，你要放下，放下. Okay? So Venerable Master turned to look at Xiao Sigu and wrote 2 words, let go, in Chinese, 放下. Okay? That was his last piece. Put down his pen and turned to Xiao Sigu. He said, what I need to let go is not my physical body. Okay? What I cannot let go of are sentient beings. 我要放下的是色身，不是众生。Okay. Why was he writing? Because every piece he had written would go towards the sons of Rulai, the students of Guangming College in Philippines, right? The children who cannot go to school in China. Every piece mattered. Every piece he struggled to write would create an opportunity for students to go to school and create a future of their own. So that's actually what's in his mind. And mind you, if you write at that pace every day, right, you're going to get an infection and a stiff arm so badly that it's so painful. Painful to the state that you can't even lift your arm. That's what he was writing with. Okay. But he was willing to bear with it because he knew what he was doing. So that was the gift of life. Okay. And how else can we give the gift of our life? Have you ever wondered? Is it just our time? Is it just our achievements? What else? He says, I have more than this lifetime to give. I have every lifetime to give to everyone. In 2016, we had a life and chant event with more than 1,200 college students who came from different parts of the world. And among them were the students from Guangming College who have received full scholarship, free room and board, summer and winter internship overseas, without charging $1. Everything was provided by the Venerable Master. And so as they learned of this old monk's kind intention, when they finally got to come to Taiwan to meet him, one of them actually got up and said thank you to Venerable Master. And this was what Lady Anne said. In her third year, second final year, before she graduated, she said to Venerable Master, I thank you for everything you have done. Okay? And we appreciate it because you have changed our lives. So I promise you, in 10 years' time, all graduates of the Guangming College will do our best to propagate humanistic Buddhism. We will use what we have learned to achieve world peace. This came from a group of Catholic students. Catholic students, Catholic followers never convert, no matter what you do. But they were willing to make a promise that in 10 years' time, they will be propagating humanistic Buddhism. And by then, Venerable Master was already 90. Okay, so on that day when I interpreted for him, I had a question in my mind. Very shamefully, I share with you right now. I was thinking in my mind, you're going to make him wait for 10 years? He's already 90. Is that going to happen? Okay. If not, maybe Venerable Master would just say thank you. Okay. But to my surprise, he turned to Lady Anne and said, thank you. If I don't live to see that day, I will come back to see you in my next life. Okay. That was probably one of the most difficult moments of my life as an interpreter. I could not continue to translate because I was really shocked by this gift of life from a 90-year-old Bodhisattva. He trusted in Lady Anne's promise. He knew he would do it. And he says, I believe you, and I'll come back to share that moment with you. Okay. So for me, he never was just teaching the Dharma. In a spiritual practitioner, the greatest realization of interconnectedness with all living beings, especially as equals, is when you feel for one another and you have 100% trust and faith in everything they say to you, no matter how impossible it is. And today, as we sit here, I believe we still receive the gift of Dharma from the Venerable Master. We receive his legacy in the temple structures. We receive and feel his legacy in the presence of his monastic disciples who will continue on his wisdom. And we still see his legacy in every one of you who are willing to come down to here today, no matter how busy you are, to share in the memories of this teacher who changed every single one of our lives. Isn't this a wonderful gift? The gift of life. And I trust that every one of you, just like me, will continue to cherish this gift until he returns on the wings of his vows. Okay, we will show him something so great. He will be so happy that we never gave up in his absence. Okay, so this is what I'd like to share. And did Lady Anne fulfill her promise? Okay, this is 2023, okay, almost 10 years later. These are the graduates, full of confidence, grown adults who have deep faith in humanistic Buddhism as a second religion of their life. Some of them have become the financial support of their family, supporting their brothers and sisters in college. Some of them have taken on full-time works at Guangming Temple and Guangming College now as assistant teachers, lecturers, teaching their junior students how to dance, how to study the Dharma. And many of them await the opportunity to serve as part of the humanistic Buddhist community, all because of the gift. So we look forward to the future of their contribution as well. Okay. And number 3, I would like to share with you is, what is my master like? Okay. There is always an impression that if you come to Foguangshan as a volunteer or as a Blia member, you're going to get so busy, right? You have so many tasks, so many things to do, you'll be so busy. Okay. I wonder if you feel that it's true. Well, it's partly true because it's part of our spiritual practice as the Bodhisattva path, isn't it? We keep our lives busy in order to keep up with the needs of living beings. And through offering our services, we learn to let go of our attachment to the self. We see a more soft, a more willing, a more wise human being ourselves who sees the oneness of ourselves and others. So of course, there are a lot of tasks for us to accomplish as our way to cultivate wisdom and to cultivate merit. But to me, he was never assigning works or tasks to me. Anytime he gave me a task or a goal, I see it as an opportunity to transcend my old self. I see it as an opportunity to find new wisdom to overcome the challenges that he sets for us. He says, I love challenges. I love it when things are difficult because this will be an opportunity for me to become even more resourceful and to solve problems. And indeed, every time he overcomes any of these impossible problems, he becomes wiser. Okay. So what kind of task did he give to me? Okay. I would like to share this book you might have all known. It's called 365 Days for Travelers. Right. It contains more than 800 entries of verses, sutra excerpts, quotations from Venerable Master's works, as well as Buddhist sutras and ancient poems. Okay. It crosses all genres in Chinese literature. And he wanted to make it out of one vow. Throughout his travels across the world during the 1940s, what he always saw inside the hotel rooms is when you open the drawer, you see a copy of the Bible. Everywhere you go, in all languages. And so he wondered, what if we also had a copy of the Buddhist Bible for travelers on their weary days when they're exhausted and lost in a strange land? What if you opened up your drawer, find a book, you will be able to read something that calms your mind, soothes your heart, and gives you wisdom. Okay. So he came up with this idea of this book. And he took about 3 months to complete the Chinese version when he started to distribute it across all hotels across the world. Okay. And just when we thought it was done, there was a day when we were gathered in front of a small meeting room. And some of the Venerables were reporting to him about the status of distribution of these books. About 50,000 copies in mainland China, how many thousand copies in Asia, and so on. Then I was standing near the door because I was the youngest. So usually, the younger you are, the further you stand from the Venerable Master. Okay, so that was my automatic position back in those days. So on that day, as I stood near the door to listen to all this status reporting, right, I did not expect this. What he said was, with his back to me, he said, I think this is wonderful, but in order for my dream to truly come true, for there to be a Buddhist Bible across the world, this needs to be translated into English. Okay. Guess how I felt? As soon as I heard that, I took 2 big steps backwards, closer to the door. Yeah. There's no way I'm going to do this. How am I going to translate the poems of Du Fu, Li Bai? Right? How am I going to translate Diamond Sutra and all these other sutras into English? Yeah. But some of the Venerables kind of caught my action, so one of them moved towards the door and blocked my escape route. I couldn't get out of the room. I was standing in the door. And I guess Venerable Master also sensed my movement, so he added one more thing. He says, it's actually quite important. I know you guys understand. It needs to be in English. Okay? And so I panicked even more. I didn't say anything until somebody, this other Venerable, started to elbow me in my back and says, move forward. Look, move forward. Right? Venerable Master has a thing that you can do, so why don't you fulfill that promise? Why won't you say yes when you can do something for him? Okay. So I looked at her with a very fierce look, thinking, you don't understand. This is pretty much like suicide. Right? If I don't translate well, the whole world is going to blame me, isn't it? Yeah. But Venerable Master said for the 3rd time, I know you understand. And then he said nothing more. Okay. So upon that moment, I pretty much knew I had no way out. So I gathered all my courage and stepped forward to him and I said, oh, 师父, 我是 Miao Guang. Dear Venerable, this is Miao Guang standing next to you, just in case you haven't seen her. Right? And I understand that this needs to be translated. Is it okay if I do it? Okay. And as I asked this, I thought he would turn around with a happy face and say, great, wonderful, go and do it. Right? He didn't say that. Without even turning around, he said, you, Miao Guang, okay, how long do you plan to take? Okay. He got right into business. And so I did a quick calculation in my mind. More than 800 entries. And if things go well, I can translate perhaps 3 to 4 in a day. So that would take me about 1 year. Okay? But I also knew in my mind, if I said 1 year, he's probably going to turn around and give me a very greasy look and said, you idiot. Okay? So I cut it in half and I said, okay, Venerable Master, I'll try my best to do it in 6 months. Okay, that was crazy. That was crazy. And I thought he would say, okay, this is good. You know, you're very brave, go and do it. But he didn't. He said, without even turning, he said, 6 months. Why 6 months? Why would you waste your life? Right? It's only 4 lines in a verse. You read 4 lines and you translate, it's done. Why 6 months? Okay? Yeah. So you could imagine the situation I was in, like burning 1,000 needles at my back, but there was no way out. Okay? So immediately I cut it in half again. I said, okay, how about 3 months? And again he said, 3 months? Why would you waste your life? Finish it in 1 month. Okay. If you have read that book, you would know it's impossible. Okay. But at that moment, I asked myself a question. Okay. If I have recognized him as my master, do I trust him? Would I think he's a joke? Was he just joking? Probably no. He's never a man who joked. If he has an idea in his mind, he's quite confident about it. Okay. So the only thing I needed to do is at that moment is, first of all, to say yes and find a way to survive. Okay. Survival of the fittest, always say yes and then find a way out. Okay. So I said to Venerable Master, okay, I'll try. I'll try my best. And he didn't even bother saying anything and he just moved on to the next agenda. Okay. So on that day, as I returned to my office, I thought to myself, okay, maybe I have 1 more month to stay alive. If I don't get it done, maybe Western Pure Land will be my next destination. Okay? But if he's trying to teach me something, then I have to catch the message. Right? In front of impossible challenges, the only way to overcome them is to awaken your wisdom. Use your wisdom to solve your problems. Okay? And very fortunately, back in 2015, there came a thing called Google Docs. It was introduced to me by a younger monastic from New York. She showed it to me when I returned to my office, feeling like I had only one more month to live. And she said, look, there's a Google Doc technology. Right? It helps you translate everything on one file. That's one thing. And secondly, it's always live. Right? If you need a Chinese translator to translate the poem into vernacular Chinese, as she types in the Chinese, you see it immediately. And when the Chinese comes out, if you want to translate the Chinese into English, when somebody translates, you see it. If you want to correct it, everybody follows. And so that kind of clicked with us. Okay. When he says 1 month, if I do it alone, it's not possible. But what if 30 people worked on it together 24 hours a day? It becomes totally possible, isn't it? And so we gathered a team of 30 translators and proofreaders and editors around the world. It was like magic. I would type in my first draft, go and have a cup of coffee. When I come back, a second draft is already being provided by someone in the US. Right? Collective effort. Right? We piggyback each other, we share in each other's knowledge. So we began to work like this for 24 hours. For 24 hours a day, and it became better and better until the day we finished every entry. When we felt like it was a very beautiful, completed draft, I calculated the day, and to my greatest shock, it was exactly 1 month after I said yes to the Venerable Master. And in that month, my Chinese improved. My English got better. And I got to know so much of the Chinese literature that taught us all this wisdom. And I'm so glad that I never turned away from his challenge, because for me, he was never assigning me any works. What he was doing is, he was giving me the opportunity to cultivate my wisdom and to establish my potentials. So I'm so glad to have a master like him, who was always taking us onto a whole new level. Therefore, with this experience, in the year later, when we brought up the possibility of translating the Fo Guang dictionary, Fo Guang Da Ci Dian, into English, which was maybe 1,000 times more difficult than this book, I walked up to him without any hesitation this time. So I said, Venerable Master, allow me to take on this task. I would like to translate it into English, so more people in this world will have a better tool to help and understand Chinese Buddhist sutras. And this time he said to me, wonderful, as long as you are willing to do something, I will always be there to support you. 只要你肯发心，我都乐见其成. This time he knew I was ready, and he was ready to support me. So we gathered a lot of professors, team members, who have come together and worked on the translation dictionary of the translation project of a dictionary that is very difficult for more than 8 years. Our only goal was to overcome any kind of possibility and difficulty so that we can bring a tool to this world. And one of the persons who helped us is actually Dr. Louis Lancaster, whom I believe have actually given a talk in Malaysia before. He's our executive academic advisor, a very good friend of Venerable Master as well. And we were very fortunate to have him, who come on Zoom every week to teach us how to read and understand Buddhist terminology before we translate them. Okay. We began to enjoy this process of learning, discussing, and overcoming difficulties. And our goal was to actually have it completed by 2025. Okay. So we've been working steadily towards this with the dream that we will happily place the completed work in the hands of the Venerable Master. But this dream was cut short. It was disrupted this year in February the 5th, when we were told of the news of Venerable Master's passing away. By then, Dr. Lancaster is already 92. And from as early as 2018, he had already given up on the possibility of taking long-distance flights because of his age. He even told me in 2019, I may never be able to come to Foguangshan ever again in my life. So I was quite sad by that. Although we were able to come to Los Angeles to see him, but having him at Foguangshan was a totally different story. And so despite of this decision to never come out of the risk, on the 5th of February, when we shared the news of Venerable Master's passing away, he came to Xilai Temple in Los Angeles immediately to pay respect to the Venerable Master. And he was very, very sad. In his talk with Venerable Huidong, the abbot of Xilai Temple, he broke into tears. He got so upset because he had lost a good friend. And he felt very sad because he said to Venerable Huidong, now I have a big regret in life. That is, I will never be able to complete this work and share with the Venerable Master. He was sad that the Venerable Master would never see the completed English translation of the dictionary. Which makes me very sad too, because I hold myself responsible for not being able to complete that task and to fulfill that dream. But let's just say everything happens for a reason. As he got so upset, he made another decision. He says, maybe I still have the energy to come to Taiwan to say goodbye to my old friend. So he gathered the courage to get on the plane just in February 24th, and he came to Foguangshan. And in those days, every morning he would go to the Founders Hall in the Sutra Repository. He would sit in front of Venerable Master's statue for minutes, for half an hour, just to speak to him. We were very happy to see him. But at the same time, when we developed the Foguang Dictionary software, what happened is the introduction of AI, or ChatGPT, DeepL. So we began to incorporate artificial intelligence into our translation procedure. And to our surprise, the power of AI actually allowed us to push forward the progress of the dictionary very largely. In April, we were at 55% of the translations after 8 years of work. But when all of our translators got a hang of the AI technology, moving to May, our progress became 87%. And we have a goal, we have the dream of being able to finish everything by the end of this year. So if it wasn't for his dream, if it wasn't for our wish to show Venerable Master this work, maybe none of this would have happened. And now our goal is to have the publication of the paper edition by the end of 2024, and also the digital edition starting from next year. And we want to do this for one reason, to speed up the process of Chinese Buddhist Sutra translation. And I asked him, what change are we about to bring to this world? And he said to me, we may pretty much speed up the process of all Buddhist Sutra translations by 30 years. This is good news for all of us English speakers, all of us who long to read the Chinese text. With technology accompanied by our vows and the team's hard work, we have wonderful things to achieve. And this is our way to perhaps say thank you to the Venerable Master. So this is what I want to share for the third thing, right? When you feel very busy and overwhelmed with the tasks you've been given as a Blia member or as a Fo Guangshan devotee, what if you realized this is actually an opportunity for you to develop your affinities with the world? Because these affinities will do endless wonders for you in the future. I have been a witness, and I have been someone who benefited so much from all of this, out of every Blia member who's willing to develop that affinity. And any moment you come across a challenge, what if you told yourself, this is my chance to overcome the Atman and to establish my insightful compassion? You become someone with a bigger heart and a bigger vision. So as we cultivate all of this, I learned to appreciate everything that has been given to me, a platform for us to continue to practice as aspiring bodhisattvas. Okay. But mind you, bodhisattvas are not meant to live a comfortable life. I'm sorry to burst that bubble. Bodhisattvas are compassionate beings who are suffering with all other living beings as equals, to the extent that suffering no longer affects you, because you have the wisdom to transcend it. And that only comes from days and days of practice and service. So even for Venerable Master, as a bodhisattva, maybe an advanced and senior bodhisattva, sometimes he also gets slandered. He gets slandered for everything he does, even for the things he wants to do for a country or a society. So people used to call him a political monk. So today I would like to share with you that he's more than just a political monk. He's just someone who had tremendous care for the happiness and peace of all living beings. And in order to achieve that, he does what a bodhisattva needs to do: self-sacrifice. So I shared this afternoon during the book expo. And I said, he's not a political monk because what he was doing is looking at something from the top-down perspective that could change many people's lives based on what he does. So in 2015, he flew to Boao for a forum because he was given a very rare opportunity. Okay? It was an opportunity to be involved in a photo shoot with all the presidents, prime ministers, and leaders of the world, which included Chairman Xi Jinping. But in 2015, he had already lost most of his strength in his legs. So when we flew out to Boao, every time he had to get up from his seat, it took 4 of us to actually help him get up. And even with the help of 4 people, he could only remain standing for less than 1 minute to do what he needed to do. Okay. But with his body, he dragged himself over to Boao for that photo opportunity. For people who don't understand, you would think it's actually a chance for him to show himself. But this is actually what happened. Okay. During that day of the photo shooting, we had a whole entourage to follow him. Right? Medical attendants, translators, elders, companions. But as we approached the venue for the photo shooting, because the security level was at its highest, most of us were blocked from entering the venue. And after much negotiation, we managed to keep 2 companions with him. One is the wheelchair pusher, the other is actually the translator, who would need to help him communicate. But as we reached the venue, it was empty, because no leaders would get there 10 minutes ahead. They will only be there 10 seconds before time. Okay. Venerable Master was the first to get there. And so we tried to help him, stay with him until there was a moment for him to stand up. But the security guards wouldn't let us stay with him. They started to chase us out of the venue. And so I said to them, look, he's a 90-year-old man who cannot stand up on his own. He needs help. Okay. And if you could let us just stay with him, hold on to him just for 10 minutes, we will walk away once the photo shooting happens. But they wouldn't budge. They got so fierce, they took out their baton as if they were saying, if you don't get out, we're going to bash you and chase you out of the venue. Okay, so in order to keep us safe, Venerable Master said, okay, just take me to my position, help me get up, and then you guys walk out. So that was 10 minutes prior to everyone gathered. And as we looked at him outside of the boundary, we were very worried because we could see that he used every single strength in his body to remain standing. He began to shake. He began to wobble. But he tried his best to gather his strength to steady and to stabilize himself. Until the moment came when all the leaders came, and lastly, the chairman Xi Jinping finally took his position in the last second. It was already 10 minutes later. And the photo shoot took only 3 seconds, and then they all walked away. And this is what we see. If you realize, you will see how hard he's trying to remain standing. And we were very grateful to this gentleman next to him who held out an arm to help the Venerable Master. But right after the photo shooting, we rushed to his side. As soon as he realized there was a wheelchair, he fell into the wheelchair with a very loud plump. And just as we were about to ask if he was hurt, he turned around with a very big smile and asked us, how did I do? Did I stand well? 我刚刚站得挺不挺? That literally brought tears to our eyes. We weren't sure why he insisted on doing this by imposing so much danger onto himself. But as we left the venue, he was in a very good mood. He said, today, just those 10 minutes, 我这一站啊，站出中国大陆13亿人口学佛的因缘。Just by being there for 10 minutes, I think I've opened up a door for the 1.3 billion people in mainland China to learn the Dharma. Okay, that's what he cared for. He knew that in the presence of the Dharma, it will remove so many people's worries and fear. In the presence of the Dharma, it will open up so many people's minds to wisdom that they will begin to change their own world and their lives. That's why he did that. And after we returned to the hotel room, he asked the attendant to bring him into his bedroom, and he never actually came out again, not even to eat dinner for the rest of the day, because he used up every single strength just for those 10 minutes. So should people ask, is he a political monk? I would say no. He's not political at all, but he's very caring. And he has a very big heart. He would like to share the Dharma with an entire country, an entire world, no matter what the cost is. That's what I want to say. Okay. And last but not least, the fifth point I would like to share with you today is when we accompany the Venerable Master around the world, what I saw was he wasn't propagating the Dharma. What he was doing is to teach us how to care for lives. And to say this, I use my most frequently used example of the September 11th attack. When we arrived at Ground Zero as the only Buddhist organization, he said his prayer that did not begin with, "Oh, great compassionate Buddha." Instead, to all the people who were present there, the security guards, the cleaners, the policemen, who were either of Latino background, African American background, right, Anglo-Saxon background, or Asian background, he knew they were there. So he said the prayer as, "Dear Jesus, God, Allah, Muhammad, and Buddha. Okay. May they rest in your garden, in your heaven, and in your pure land. So the disease will no longer be lost, and the survivors will no longer be in pain." Okay. As he said that, all these security guards and cleaners changed their attitude immediately. They began by watching us with arms crossed, right? Leaning backwards with a sense of doubt. But as soon as they heard this prayer, They came forward to the Venerable Master and asked him a question. We were really truly touched by your prayer, but we are not Buddhists. Are you willing to bless us? So without a second thought, he sprinkled the great compassion Dharani water on them and also added the next line, God bless you. Okay. When this happened, I was only 23. I was not sure what happened. Okay. And he sensed my doubt. So on our way back, he said, you think we're here to promote Buddhism, aren't you? You think we're here as the only Buddhist organization to use this opportunity. But no. Wherever you go, if anything you say does not bring happiness and peace to the person in front of you, then you may as well have not come. That was his lesson on equality to me. It's more about caring for life who needed comfort and solace and guidance, more than the wisdom of Dharma. This is who he was. So on the year when he got sick, after this massive stroke, the doctor said he may never start to talk again, or at least it would take 1 to 2 years. But to our surprise, he began to talk 1 month after the surgery. But despite that, his short-term memory was severely damaged. So anything he said in this moment, he will forget the next moment. But nevertheless, with however much strength he had left in him, he insisted on meeting our devotees whenever they come to Foguangshan. So on this occasion, this is the number of interpreters that need to be present. 3 interpreters. Okay. First of all, the one in the center, Venerable Miao Guang. Not Guang, I'm Guang, this is Guang. Okay. Venerable Miao Guang is his secretary, whose voice was pretty much the only voice he could hear and detect with the 1% remaining hearing ability. So anything people say, she would actually translate it again into his ears. First translator. Second translator, because his speech was largely damaged because of the hemorrhage. He wasn't making much sense with what he said. But somehow Venerable Chihui on the left of the photo understood everything he said. So whatever he said, she would translate it again into regular Mandarin for the crowd to understand. Okay. And if in cases where there are non-Chinese speakers, and I will be there to translate what Venerable Chihui translated into Mandarin into English. Okay. So it's a very tedious and slow process, but we wanted to be there to support him and to help him share any words he wanted to share. Okay. So during one of the short-term monastic retreats with 700 preceptees, we were present there with him. And this is what he said. He said, I'm 92. I'm a crippled, useless old man who is confined to a wheelchair. But as long as you are happy that I can do something for you, I'm willing to protect you with my life. Okay. Once again, the gift of life done through his care and concern for every living being. Okay. So what kind of life did Venerable Master live after his stroke? After he was confined to a wheelchair? After he had lost 99% of his vision and hearing? I would like to show you this video to give you a glimpse into how he continued to give his life. Okay. Okay. So these were the days when we were still building the Sutra repository. Okay. So this is how he built it. He was confined to a wheelchair, but he visited the site every day. Not being able to see, he used his hands to feel the material, to feel the color and the surroundings. When we carved his writing onto the wall, he wanted to go and experience how high and the feelings, where the words are, 3 times every day. And the way he instructed the building of the Sutra repository is to personally walk through every corner, every corridor, and every space to make sure when we are there, we are comfortable and we are peaceful. So sometimes the construction site may be dangerous, but he didn't care. This was the day he wanted to check where his trees he had planted 50 years ago would be transplanted into the Sutra repository. So not being able to stand, not being able to see, he felt with his entire body. And on the days when he had visitors, just to make sure he would still be able to visit the site regularly, he would bring his guests. So he'd be receiving guests and inspecting construction at the same time. And this day, he had a fever above 40 degrees, but he refused to rest. He knew every day he was absent, the construction will slow down. And on this day, when the carvings were finished, he wanted to feel it, but he wasn't able to stand up. So the bhikkhus lifted his body so he could actually feel his own writing on the wall. If he couldn't see, he would feel with his hand. And you will see on his hand, his right hand, it was, the muscle had tensed so much, just by lifting it, it would be so painful. So we had to put a cushion underneath his arm. But that didn't stop him. That's how he wrote the 10 pieces for Venerable Jue-chen to bring back to the children who can study. So this is the Venerable Master we see in our lives. You see in the last frame, what does it say? What else can I do for you? Okay. Even when he had lost his mobility, his vision, his hearing, anytime we come to him just to see him, this is his question. Thank you for coming to see me. Don't regard me as a sick person. I'm just inconvenienced. But tell me, what else can I do for you? For every bit of life left in him, he will regard it as a way to continue to do something and to be of service to the world. So for our Venerable Master, without this determination to care for lives, no one can come to this level and give the gift of life to the rest of the living beings. Okay. So as I look back to our times with him, right, as I become more and more clear with the kind of teacher he was, the kind of Venerable Master, I think the final thing I wanted to share with you is actually the week or the day that I received news of his passing away. Okay. I would like to share with you, on the moment he passed away, I was on a plane on my way back from Los Angeles. It was the week when I decided to go out to Los Angeles to visit Dr. Lancaster, whom back then said he may never come to Asia again. I went on the 31st of January, and on the 3rd, I received a call. They told me to catch the next flight back to Kaohsiung as soon as possible. And I knew why. But the only flight I could catch was the one on the 5th. So all along my trip back to Taiwan, I had only one wish, that Master, you would wait for me. Please, wait for me. Allow me to come back and see you. Unfortunately, 2 hours after takeoff, I received a message that said Venerable Master had passed away. Okay. So at that moment, I was actually thinking to myself a lot of things. First of all, do I lack the blessings to really see him for the final time? 我当时想的是，我怎么那么没有福报啊，连师父的最后一面都见不到。That was what's in my mind. And the next thing was, I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't say anything as I was sitting on board. Not even the meals they served I was able to touch. So the flight attendant actually came and asked if I was okay, if I needed medical assistance. So I told them I'm okay. But as my mind went blank, I asked myself, how am I to respond to this huge news? How am I to react to the loss of someone so dear to me? Should I break into tears? Should I get upset? What should I do? So upon that moment in the darkness on board, I searched very desperately within my head as to what my master would actually say to me at that moment when this biggest shock in my life finally arrived. And then there came his voice. In the earlier days of my monastic life, he already said to me, right, don't always lock yourself in very small personal emotions and relationships. Think of the bigger picture. Think of sentient beings. 他说不要老是装着小情小爱、儿女情长，你应该要为众生着想。So upon that moment, I realized there's something I can do. I turned to his honest revelation, his final words, 真诚的告白, because I had translated that in 2014 in tears. It was actually his last words about his expectations and his wishes for all of us. So after reading through his final words, I had a moment of calm. I feel better. I felt more steady because of the directions he had given me in his final words. And in one of them, this is what he says. He says, I have nothing to give to you. I don't need you to give me anything either. But if you truly miss me, a few simple words written or Buddhist songs chosen from the sounds of the human world may be sung by those who miss me. Don't miss me with tears. Don't miss me in sadness. Miss me in your spirit to connect with the Dharma. And he says, the most fitting way to honor my memory and my sincerest wish is for everyone to bear the teachings of humanistic Buddhism in mind. and always practice humanistic Buddhism. Okay. That was how we can continue to meet with him, even in this moment. The moment when we connect with his Dharma and his teaching, the moment when we see his spirit, he is with us. So lastly, what can we do in his absence? Can Fo Guangshan and Belia function normally after he's gone? He has an answer. He says, the banner of Dharma cannot be toppled. 法床不容倾倒. The lamp of wisdom must never be extinguished. 慧灯不可熄灭. Okay. I hope everyone is able to continue to progress on the great path of humanistic Buddhism, to support and uplift each other, and to nurture our own well-being for the sake of Buddhism. So if we continue to strive forward to seek our happiness and peace in the guidance of the Dharma, Venerable Master will always be with us. Okay. Therefore, in his final weeks, in the week after he passed away, there were a lot of messages in how he arranged his memorial. First of all, he said, I would never come to rest in saving living beings. So even his body did not lie down. He chose for his body to remain seated in the Nirvana Stupa, one that actually reflected Kushinagara. I will never rest. And secondly, if you had a chance to walk into the cloud-dwelling building, the memorial hall, you will see that there's nothing sad about the surroundings. It was bright, it was colorful, it was decorated with his words, his wishes for everyone, the songs of cloud and star, the verses, right, across all mountain regions and rivers, under the same moon and sun. Hope is placed in all children of the Buddha to create the future as one. 山川异域，日月同天，祭诸佛子，共结来缘。If we see his hope, we understand he never left. If we see his spirit, we realize he had already given us everything he can to keep us going. So today, as we sit here in commemoration of our Venerable Master, right, I felt a sense of calmness, a sense of tranquility, but with so much joy that I'm able to share all of this with you here. The personal stories, the private emotions, but also our shared memories of the days when he was in Malaysia, saying how much he loved Malaysia, that in one of his future lives, he's ready to come back as a Malaysian. That's his affinity he has left with all of us. So let's not be sad and sorrowful. Let's not feel lost. Anytime we feel like we need his guidance, turn to his Dharma words. That's where his Dharma body is. And I believe, just like me, you will gain a lot of strength and hope to strive forward as a Buddhist. So I thank you for listening today, and I look forward to creating more memories with you as part of the Fo Guangshan family. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Venerable Miao Guang. Indeed, the past 1 hour was an amazing and wonderful sharing. Am I right? Can we now give Venerable another round of applause, please? Moving on, we still have a little bit of time. If you do have any question for Venerable, please raise your hand, please.
Thank you, Venerable Miao Guang, for coming to Malaysia and have the connection with us and share your emotion and your history with our master. Actually, I want to ask this question, and at the end, Venerable already spelled out that the master intend to his discourse that he is returning to Malaysia. My question is, are we, or our Fokang son, is doing anything to welcome him back? Because as the Tibetan Buddhism, they had that kind of reincarnation thing. Are we doing anything, or if not, can Venerable Master, Venerable Miao Guang, share your thoughts on this? Because to me personally, I feel the Master has returned, but I don't know, I need the higher order people to have, particularly Venerable has so much affinity, and I believe you are the only person who are very close to the Master, having his thoughts, has his conscious mind together with him. You should be having a better affinity to know about the Master reincarnation. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. Are we doing anything to welcome him back? Okay. I will tell you what not to do. Don't hold up banners to welcome him back. He will run away. Okay. This happened in Kaohsiung when, in his early days in Taiwan, although he was based in Yilan, he paid a visit back to Kaohsiung once every month. And every time he arrived at Kaohsiung train station, the devotees in Kaohsiung would actually start a band, hold up a banner to welcome him. And that got him very upset. He said to them, if you ever do that again, I'll turn away from you and run. Okay. So don't hold up a banner to welcome him back. Okay. So how do we welcome him? Okay. First of all, continue as normal. For everything that we are doing, for the goals we have been given, entrusted with, and are yet to achieve, continue with it. Whether you're a monastic or a lay. Right? If the goal is to establish more Blia branches in Malaysia, so more people can learn from the benefit of the Dharma, then we continue with that goal. If the goal is to expand Dongchan Temple, or this cultural center, so that we can actually bring in more students, create more spaces for university students, for them to have a place to continue their activity, then continue as normal. For every one person who comes across Venerable Master, you might discover a great charm in him. That is, he always made you feel so special, didn't he? He always made it feel like you're his favorite person in the world, for the things he said to you, because he saw an affinity and a hope. So that's why in the book sharing we had today, when they asked me, why would you recommend the book? And I would say, he brought out the best in every disciple he had. But by bringing out the best in us, it doesn't mean we have yet accomplished his goal. For example, for me, the goal he had given me is to bring humanistic Buddhism to an international level through translation, through the nurturing of multilingual talents who can propagate the Dharma, through establishing friendly relationships on an international level. So I have achieved none of this so far. Very shamefully, I say that. So to me, there's one thing I would like to do for Venerable Master when he comes back. That is, I will be striving to complete the translations of the dictionary and his complete works, as well as the Buddhist canon, which is now possible with the assistance of AI. Because I'd like to share with you, we established this not on a joking level. We don't treat this as fun. We have been setting up the translation platform by injecting all the information I can find about Foguangshan and Buddhism into our system, so that it's able to translate in the proper Buddhist language. So if back 7 years ago, if I picked up a 1,000 Chinese character article by the Venerable Master, translated it manually, for someone experienced as I am, from first draft to editing, to second draft of proofreading, until I create a publication quality translation, for me, it takes 2 hours. But when we injected all this data, his tone, his voice, into the translation platform, guess how much time it took to translate this same article? 2.5 seconds. At the accuracy of more than 92%, right? With the support of Grammarly and all of these programs that help us assess the quality of the translation. So if I can go from 2 hours to 2.5 seconds, then I add 20 minutes to completing the editing of the article until its publication quality. We're confident that starting from 2025, we'll begin to produce a quality English translation of Venerable Master's book at 1 title per month. So if we're looking at 396 books, we translate the most important ones. If we have, again, 15 to 30 translators who use AI as an assistance, but keep the decision-making process to ourselves, the task of translating his work in this lifetime of mine is totally possible. I used to think it would take 30 years, but now it may just well take less than 30 months. So I said to Venerable Master in front of his statue, I'm going to have a surprise for you. When you come back and when you're ready to propagate the Dharma, we're going to have your work ready in English, Spanish, French, maybe Portuguese, Japanese, Korean. I will vow to continue to cultivate the group, collective effort, and we share this data with the world. So anyone who is interested in helping us complete the work can join the team. So this is what I would like to do. But for maybe a Venerable who specializes in cooking, she may say, my surprise for you, Venerable Master, when you come back, is that we will have established more than 300 water drop tea houses across the world. Isn't it? Yeah. Or you complete setting up a university in either Philippines, in Taiwan, maybe in China, or even Malaysia. So Venerable Master had given us so many different types of platforms which will cater to the needs of different individuals. So no matter who you are, just like what he said in his open revelation, as long as you identify with the values of humanistic Buddhism, keep doing what you can do. This is the best way to remember me. And I believe keep doing what you can do as a part of the community is the best way to welcome him back. Yeah, so continue as normal and never stop. That's all you need to do. Okay.
We can still take another question from the floor. Anyone?
Recently, the Institute of Humanistic Buddhism, University of the West, had a lecture about the controversy on the 13th Patriarch of the Lotus Society. So our master is the 48th Lingchi sect. So do we have the hierarchy well documented to avoid what is happening to the Lotus Society? Okay, thank you.
The legacy of a lineage can only be passed on with future generations, isn't it? So this is where we are at right now. Okay. For me, Venerable Hsing and Venerable Yoden, we are the second generation of the Fo Guang lineage. Okay. And at the same time, starting from 2013, Venerable Master already continued down passing the lineage of the Lingji tradition to us as well. So we hold two roles. We are both the second generation of the Foguang lineage. We're also the 49th generation of the Lingji tradition. This is who we are. And then just a week ago, after Venerable Master's passing away, 10 youngsters volunteered to become renounced at Foguangshan. And so people were doubtful. They were asking them, are you sure? Master Xingyun is no longer here. The legacy may not continue. You won't have a great leader. So are you still going to renounce? You won't have a future. This is what one of the girls said. She's actually a Malaysian. She said, this is exactly the time that I will show to the world that I identify with his spirit. I see him in me. So this is the time for me to show the world that the legacy of the Foguang lineage will be passed on even without his physical presence. So a week before, these 10 people became the first 10 of the third generation of the Foguang lineage. So I would say, what has Venerable Master done? How can someone expand his life to this level that even without being around, he's still around, like you said? And without being around, we feel his wisdom and lineage. We want to continue it. This is too good to stop, isn't it? He has started something so great and wonderful that we have no reason to stop doing just because he has passed away. Because it's only his physical life. He said, in my next life, I'm going to come back as a Buddhist monk again, so keep at it. He even said to one of us, he's at the Buddha Museum, he said to this monastic, keep doing what you're doing for the Buddha Museum. 30 years later, I'll come back to see you. 你在佛陀纪念馆继续好好的做下去，30年后我会来找你。Do you think he's joking? No, he isn't. Right? He has a promise. He has a promise beyond time and space. He has a promise that has already linked all of our hearts and faith together. So I appreciate your question, and I'm very happy and willing to clarify that maybe even before this year, 10 years ago, he was already setting up the passing down of the baton. 40 years ago, he was already doing that. So at 46, he stepped down. 65, he stepped down as the head abbot of Foguangshan, passed the baton. He had stopped acting as the leader of Foguangshan for more than 30 years. That's how it kept going. 制度领导，违法所依. Right? So there's a system that's going to lead Foguangshan onwards. And what we will follow is the regulation and law of the community. He said in his open revolution, respect collective decision. Follow the monastic law. There's nothing else for you to do. And don't do this for me. Do this for the future of Foguangshan and Buddhism. And so it's quite sad for us to see many wonderful religious leaders, once they pass away, their lineage stops because the baton was not being handed down in time. He did not wait until the moment of his passing away to hand it down. He started it 40 years ago, and he guarded this tradition. So that was very forward-thinking. Only a man with the heart of the entire religion, only a man who sees into the endless future with very little attachment to power would be able to achieve a thing like this. So I say this without joking. The leaders at Foguangshan now cooperate in harmony. We have not quarreled, although we have disagreements, but we do our best to reach a unanimous decision. And once that's reached, we all respect it, no matter how difficult we find it to accept, because this is our master's instruction. We will keep at it to the best of our abilities. But this needs to be passed down onto the future generation, because in Buddhism, there is no I. There is only we. 常住第一，自己第二；佛教第一，自己第二；大众第一，自己第二。He already said it. Place Buddhism before yourself. Place the monastery before yourself. Place the entire community before yourself. Most importantly, place the devotees before yourself. 信徒第一，自己第二. For us monastics, you are the one who's keeping this legacy happening. Right? The monastics will be transferred to other places, but you will be here all your life. And we respect that. So every day we go through his Dharma teachings and we realize it's so forward-thinking, it's so universal. He says it with such a big heart. And I wonder if with such a good teaching, if I don't follow it, what else should I follow? It would be giving away, throwing away the best treasure, then beginning to look for something smaller and narrower, isn't it? So the佛光community now realizes this collectiveness. We're moving forward so fast together. Right? There will be disagreements, but it's okay. Let our faith, let the organization hold us together. When we see the bigger picture, we will be okay. That's how we pass on the lineage. Yeah. Thank you for the question once again.
Moving on, I would like to invite Venerable Hsing to give a few words.
I mean great gratitude to our Venerable Miao Guang, our Deputy Chancellor, to be with us today, and being a devotee on the floor and the disciple here who is always abroad. We always regard our master as someone who is like a bodhisattva. We lack the chance to be with him or leave him in such a near distance like her to let us know more details about master. And today, I think every one of you have already harvested a lot from her sharing, what master is a person to us and how he lived out his life and dedicated himself to all the sentient beings. And once again, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our Deputy Chancellor today for being with us in such a short notice. And without hesitation, she said yes to me. I'm so grateful to her. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my honor and pleasure.
Okay. Today, with great appreciation, our President, Choi Mi, she would like to present a token of appreciation to our Venerable Miao Guang today.
Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, as all of us know, this is the book that was recommended by our Venerable Miao Guang, and you can obtain this book, and Venerable Miao Guang will be very pleased to have them autographed.
So we have the new books at the back of the main shrine. So if you want to, buy the books, and our Venerable Miao Guang will be very happy to sign the autograph for you. So please line up one by one. And today we are very happy for everyone to be here. And thank you so much. Today our sharing session comes to an end, and thank you for your time and effort to come here. Thank you so much.
322. Brothers and sisters, can you please turn to page 322? Brothers and sisters, you may leave the chairs to the side of the hall. Thank you.
更要惜福结缘离人天。勤修禅机，皆恒平等人，常怀惭愧，感恩大愿心。我们会汲取师父的教诲，做个正知正见佛光人。勤修禅机，皆恒平等人，常怀惭愧，感恩大愿心。我们会汲取师父的教诲，做个正知正见佛光人，做个正知正见佛光人。虽然我们不能常相聚，至少我们是徒心相惜。不忘慈悲，喜舍遍法界，更要惜福结缘离人天。勤修禅机，皆恒平等人，常怀惭愧，感恩大愿心。我们会汲取师父的教诲，做个正知正见佛光人。常相聚，至少我们是徒心相惜。不忘慈悲，喜舍遍法界，更要惜福结缘离人天。勤修禅机，皆恒平等人，常怀惭愧，感恩大愿心。我们会汲取师父的教诲，做个正知正见佛光人。修禅机，皆恒平等人，常怀惭愧，感恩大愿心。我 虽然我们不能常相聚，至少我们师徒心相惜。不忘慈悲，喜舍遍法界，更要惜福结缘利人天。手禅机，皆恒平等人，常怀惭愧，感恩大愿心。我们会汲取师父的教诲，做个正知正见佛光人。常相聚，至少我们师徒心相惜。不忘慈悲，喜舍遍法界，更要惜福结缘利人天。勤修禅机，皆恒平等人，常怀惭愧，感恩大愿心。我们会汲取师父的教诲，做个正知正见佛